As we move into the early Tudor period, two names shine as pioneers of Renaissance poetry in England, Sir Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. Together, their works, later printed in Tottle's Miscellany in 1557. This was asked in exam, especially in chronology type question. Mark the true beginning of English Renaissance verse. Let's start with Sir Thomas Wyatt. Born in 1503, descended from an old Yorkshire family, he was educated at Cambridge before entering royal service. His career was full of diplomatic missions, but his patronage under Thomas Cromwell brought both prestige and peril. After Cromwell's downfall, Wyatt himself was imprisoned in 1541. Literarily, Wyatt was an innovator. He introduced the first sonnets into English, 31 in total, 10 of which followed the Italian or Petrarchan form. Yes, that's an exam anchor. He also wrote epigrams, songs, and rondo, often lighter than his sonnets, showing a blend of elegance and care. His most famous poem, Whoso List to Hunt, and this particular poem was asked in exam, which allegorically reflects his dangerous admiration for Anne Boleyn. Beyond this, his satires, composed in Italian terza rima, show how deeply Italian literature influenced him. Wyatt gave English poetry new shapes and rhythms, paving the way for others to refine them. Now let's turn to Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. Born in 1518, son of Thomas Howard, he adopted the title of Earl of Surrey in 1524. At court, Surrey played a prominent role, but his reckless temper led to many quarrels and eventually the wrath of Henry VIII. He was executed at Tower Hill, a tragic end. Surrey's collaboration with Wyatt around 1542 created a powerful literary partnership. His works too were preserved in Tottle's Miscellany, again asked in exam. Unlike Wyatt's rougher innovations, Surrey's verse was smoother, more polished. He also brought two crucial contributions. First, he introduced the English or Shakespearean sonnet form, making him the direct predecessor to Shakespeare. Second, and this is a golden exam key, he introduced blank verse into English literature, again asked in exam. His translation of certain books of Virgil's Aeneid in 1557 marks the first English use of unrhymed iambic pentameter, the very form later perfected by Shakespeare and Milton. One more detail for memory. Many of Surrey's love poems were addressed to a mysterious woman he called Geraldine. Let's meet two fascinating Elizabethan figures, Thomas Sackville and George Gascoigne. Their names may not shine as brightly as Spenser or Sidney, but trust me, their contributions are cornerstones of early English poetry and drama. First, Thomas Sackville, later Earl of Dorset. Born in 1536 at Buckhurst in Sussex, he studied at both Oxford and Cambridge, then trained as a lawyer and entered Parliament. His political career was impressive: diplomatic missions, service as Lord High Treasurer, and eventually elevation to the Earl of Dorset in 1604. But his poetry, though limited, had a lasting impact. Sackville is best remembered for the induction and the complaint of Henry, Duke of Buckingham, both included in The Mirror for Magistrates 1555, again asked in exam. These poems, written in rhyme royal stanza, carry a melancholy, elegiac tone. The language feels archaic, but the grandeur is unmistakable. So much so that his style influenced none other than Edmund Spenser in the Faerie Queene. And here's a big one for drama lovers. Sackville also collaborated with Thomas Norton on Gorboduc, again asked in exam, the first English tragedy written in blank verse. That's a landmark moment in theatre history. Sackville's poetry has often been described as a revival of the nobility once found in Chaucer's time. Now, let's turn to George Gascoigne. Born in 1535 in Bedfordshire, educated at Cambridge, he too became a lawyer, later entering Parliament. Gascoigne's legacy lies in his versatility. He wrote elegant lyrics, pioneering satire, tragedy, comedy, and even literary criticism. His blank verse satire, The Steel Glass 1576, is particularly important in your exam because this has been asked. It's one of the first regular satires in English verse. He also co-authored Jocasta in 1566, again asked in exam, a tragedy adapted from Euripides, one of the earliest serious experiments in English drama. Around the same time, he wrote Supposes 1566, a comedy translated from Ariosto, which later influenced Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. And don't miss his Certain Notes of Instruction, 1575, one of the earliest critical essays in English about how to write verse. That alone secures his reputation as a founding figure of Elizabethan poetics.